You still have your the old you as well saved up in the corner.
Sorry?
You could maybe see him yourself, like Ghost Emil is just chilling out
Ghost
there.
Emil, yeah. Can't you see yourself?
He's even like all black and white.
What? Where?
You don't see it?
Oh, for me, it's a black and white. He's just like
Yeah, he's in color.
Yeah, for me too.
What? You mean in the chat or what? Oh, you mean oh, what the? Why is it two? The fuck?
Welcome to Microsoft.
Oh my god, Microsoft, Jesus Christ.
It's okay, now you can teach yourself.
Yeah, fucking you better teach yourself. Alright, so anyways, welcome back. We did a character before we stopped, and now I can't move or do anything, so that's good. So the thing when we spawn like a default camera.
What?
Is everything working by the way, or do we need like a minute to?
I'm assume so. Yeah.
Assume what? Assume everything's working, or assume?
My mic was working before, but now it does. So yeah, I'm good now. Sorry.
Yeah, we can hear you, Emil. Everything's fine. Keep
Okay,
going.
cool. I think I fixed the microphone issues, by the way. Am I sounding okay now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I
Yes.
switched to USB port because it's 2021. And USB still doesn't work. Alright, so yeah, we can't move. And that's because with the default camera, all the input bindings get sort of bound. I'm not sharing my screen, thank you. Fuck. I gotta have like a checklist or something. Like every time I start, I was like, okay, have I gone to the toilet? Yes. Have I fucking kissed my mom goodnight? Okay, great. Now I can start. Yeah, so with the default camera, or the default pawn, I guess, then it will bind up all the input for you. So it will bind up the mouse, it will bind up the keyboard and everything to be like, defaulted. But when we make our own character like this, we don't get that. None of the input is bound by default. Sorry, I'm gonna shut down Facebook. There we go. So we have to do that ourselves. And the way we do that is we go into fuck player, and if I go into a character, there should be a file or a function called like setup player input component. There it is. It's actually, I think it's a pawn. I actually think it's a pawn function, but it's overridden in character, and we're gonna override it once again. So the setup player input component sends us in an input component, and to the input component we're gonna bind two events. So in Unreal, all inputs are made as events. So there will be an action event, there will be an axis event, and so on when the axis changes. And we're gonna bind up to those events to do stuff in our player. Great. And also, if you're wondering what this class means, remember when I said if you can always forward declare. If you remember that. I think I did it in Deathball or something. Yeah, here's the forward declaration. Do you guys know what forward declaration is, by the way?
Yes.
Okay.
I still can't grasp it properly.
You're saying that something exists. That's all you're saying about it.
Exactly. It exists. You don't know anything about it, and you can then, if it knows it exists, then you can make pointers to it. So that's all that's needed to make pointers. Is to know that there is a class named useFair component. You can't use it in any way. You can't declare it like this. Like you can't have a you can't have like a member field that is of this type, because that means it has to know the size and has to like initialize it and stuff. So you can't do that, but you can have pointers, because all pointers are the same size in C++. So that's forward declaration. And that means you don't have to include a billion files, and then your compile times goes crazy because everything's including everything. Also to get around circular dependencies. But yeah, so I mentioned you should always forward declare if you can, because it speeds up compilation times and avoids circular dependencies. So in our, where was I here? Yeah. No. I was in... here I was. There we go. So here you can do forward declarations like this. Use type class uCanvas in the actual in the actual type name here, and this will just forward declare it sort of right here. I don't like this because this means that you can do this as many times as you want. So it's sort of hard sometimes to know, like, is it forward declared or is it not? Do I have to add class? Do I not have to add class? And also, I think this will cause problems if you actually do end up including canvas. Because if you do end up including canvas, then I think this will error, or at least it will be very confusing to understand, like, okay, but I included canvas, does that mean I still have to forward declare? What does this mean? So I personally like to put all my forward declarations sort of after the includes, which they've done here as well, so they did both, so that's great. So then I know, like, okay, is it included or is it forward declared? I can sort of see that right away by just going to the top of the file. So I'm not a big fan of doing forward declares like in the actual specification, but you know, it's up to you if you want to. You can do it if you feel like you think it's better. There's no up or downside to either, or I would say there's pros and cons to both. Great. So yeah, so let's override that function then. So it was called void setup player input component, and it takes this u input component pointer. I'm just not gonna remove this class here, and then I'll type override at the end. Can make it virtual if you want. Actually, let's do that. Let's be good C++ programmers and make it virtual right away.
Which methods do you recommend putting virtual? I'm assuming everything you plan on maybe overriding in the future.
I put virtual when I am overriding it. That's usually when I put virtual.
Okay.
It depends though if you're working with other people. If you're working with other people, you should probably put virtual on most things. But if you're not planning on it being able to be overridden, then you shouldn't put virtual.
Yeah,
But,
cool.
yeah, it depends on how much inheritance you're using. Alright, so here it is. So I'm gonna create the implementation of that. There it is. And always remember to include your header file. Okay, thanks Visual Studio for going complete. Okay, there we go. You see, they went like completely black. So dumb. Okay, so in the input component here, we can bind ourselves up to actions and axes. Axes. What's the plural of axis?
I think it's axis.
Yeah, axis or axes or something like that.
Axis. Yeah. Axis sounds right.
Yeah, I think it's axis.
Axis.
Axi.
Axi on the multiple axi. That's perfect. All right, so if I take the player input component, then arrow bind action, then here I will bind a delegate to this action event, and if I have if I do bind axis, I can bind myself up to an axis event. Very cool. So what are the actions and axes then? Axi, because if I go in here, it needs an f name, right? So it needs to know which action to bind up to, and that's declared as a string or as an f name. But an f name is kind of like a string. So how do we know which actions we have? Well, that's where we go to project settings. So if I go into project settings and then I go into engine input here, so engine and then input. Here we define what action and axis bindings we have in our game. So which buttons should be mapped to which name. So for example, we might want to jump. So I might go into action mappings, and hit the plus here to add a new action mapping. Right now we have nothing. So let's just do, I'll do jump. So I'll define jump to be an action. And the difference, by the way, between action and axis, I should say, is that action is a key press. Like it will be a button, or it will be like maybe the triggers, pressing down the triggers, RB, LB, space, enter, so on. It's like a discrete action that happens once. It can be down and it can be up. So it's binary in that way. While axes, axi, define a range of inputs. So it would be, you know, the analog stick would be an axis. You can use the triggers if you want to know how much you're pressing down on triggers. That would be an axis. As we'll see later, even we can bind keyboards to axis. That might seem a little bit weird, but we can do that. So we can bind, A and D to be an axis as well, sort of emulating like it as if it was a joystick. But we'll do that later. But let's start with action mappings because those are kind of discrete and easy. So I want to jump on space. So I'll just click this little select the key value. So I'll just click that and then hit space. So then it will just select space for me. Very, very convenient. And if you have a gamepad, then I might want to do, so might want to jump with A. So I'll just hit A there. So then it's gamepad face button. If you want to jump with shift space for some reason, you can do that here as well. So it's shift space, but yeah, let's just do space. All right, I spent too much time on this. Let's move on. So when I do the action then, here I'll type in which action I want to bind up to. So I'll do text jump. So I want to bind to the jump action name. And here's an enum, an E input event. I forgot about this. Enums are prefixed with E. So if you see E input event, then you know that this is going to be an enum. So I'll just do E input event, : and then I think this is actually, yeah, I think it's being, okay, well, it's not showing up, but I'll do IE pressed. So IE stands for input event. So sometimes enums are prefixed with something, sometimes they're not. I know, unreal things. So in this case, they are prefixed with IE underscore. So, sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. Not the best standards. No, sometimes they're enum classes, sometimes they're like enum, sometimes they're namespace. This is actually just an enum. It's actually just an enum. Okay, so this is very rare. Like you can see right under it is an enum class. Like right here! So they are not prefixed with anything. So here's IE underscore, and here's like, no, there's nothing. It's like, why would you need that? And then sometimes it's like a namespace with an enum inside of it named type. We might see that at some point. I think like collision profile or something. Like E collision. I could probably find one. No, okay, never mind. I will probably see one later. But yeah, they do enums in like 3 different ways with different naming conventions. So that's fantastic.
I never understood like the difference between enum and enum class. What is that?
An enum, just a straight enum, is essentially a glorified int, right? So in this case, this is an enum, which means I don't need to type this in. I can just type IE pressed. So that's another thing with enums. They are in global space. So even though they're inside an enum, we can just reference these directly, and that's why they have the IE underscore. So you don't have just a global variable called pressed. That's 0. Another good thing about enums, sometimes good, sometimes not, is that they implicitly convert to ints, because they are just glorified ints. So I can just do my value is equal to IE pressed, and this will work. So it will just implicitly convert to ints, and the same way I can convert an int to an enum implicitly, like this. While with enum classes, let's take like the other one that was there, like this E mouse capture mode. These ones are not in global space. You have to reference them with the enum name. So I have to do E mouse inputs. I don't even remember what it's called. Mouse capture mode, that was it. Whoops. I'm lost. You have to reference them like this. Capture permanently, for example. They do not implicitly convert to integers. So I cannot do, whoops. I cannot do int other value is equal to this. They do not implicitly convert. I have to manually cast it to an int.
I think that might do that because it's derived from uint 8.
I think
It doesn't.
No, I don't think
really?
even that. That just
I tried that last week. It doesn't work.
yeah, that
You
just
have to
defines which size it is. So this will be be saved as a char.
Oh, okay.
Or a
Never mind then.
U char. So that's just the size of it. By default, they're ints. Again, they're glorified ints. So if you don't specify an override, then these will be 4 bytes in size. But yeah, they still don't implicitly convert.
Alright.
So you have to convert them, and of course, converting back, you have to you have to also cast to a mouse capture mode. 5, like so. So this is sometimes good, sometimes not. This is good, sometimes not. It's sort of, you know, I usually, if I have this, personally I just do defines, so I define instead. It's like define IE pressed as 5. If I want to do this sort of thing, I think it's clearer that this is just like, it's just an integer. It's not supposed to be anything more than that. It's not confusing that sometimes enums you have to like specifically reference them by the enum name. Sometimes you don't. It's very clear if you do a define that you don't have to do that. So that's what I like to do, but you know, C++.
What does it mean when you define IE press to 5?
A define is a preprocessor thing. So if I define IE press to be 5, this is not code that's being run. This is only for the compiler. And what happens is, as it runs past this line, it will remember this IE pressed keyword. And what will happen every time after that, every time I'm referencing IE pressed, it will just replace that with 5. It will literally copy paste 5 and put that in there. So that is what a preprocessor definition is, or also sometimes called macros. So yeah, all hash defines, I don't know what you call this, but hash define, they will just literally copy paste code where you're placing it. So you can do some funky shit with macros. That's why sorry.
Sorry, just to clarify that, that happens before the compiler sees the code.
Yes.
So the error messages that you get, if you have like a big long macro or something, that macro is going to be copy pasted and all the line numbers are going to be off, and it's just going to create hell for you if you do like too much stuff with it. So yeah, it's not something that the compiler is doing. It's something that the preprocessor is doing before the compiler ever sees your code, and that's an important distinction to make.
Exactly. So that's why with this macro here, Unreal is able to insert code into your class. Because remember, when we looked at this generated file, it was like define and then a bunch of lines after each other. And then what's happening is generated body gets replaced with all that code. So it literally gets copy pasted from the generated.h and put into your class. So that's how Unreal is able to actually insert code into here. So the compiler, like you said, will not see this generated body. It would only see the code that has been generated. So we'll only see that, and that's what's going to be compiled. So that's what the define is. And that's what the difference between enum class and enum is. Very confusing. Thanks, C++. Right, okay, so we define this jump. We define when we want the event to trigger. So we have IE pressed, we have IE released. So that's when in the, I guess the falling edge of the key press. So if I press, that's going to be called the rising edge or the press. And when I release, that's called the falling edge or the release event. Okay, so we can bind to those two individually if we want to. And then we can also bind to IE repeat. So we can also get an event when a repeat event is called. So that's Windows sending a repeat signal that you're holding down E, and then that's gonna get fed into our game if you want to use that for some reason. But in our case, we want to jump when we press. So I'm just gonna do IE pressed. Next one. So this is the typical template thingies. So it's expecting a user class object. So it wants us to define which object is binding to this action, and that's just going to be this. So we want this object wants to receive a callback, and then we type in this horrible fucking variable here it's not able to be read is the function pointer. So we have to give the function pointer of whenever you see like something delegate type, then it's like, okay, something means the function pointer. So we just give the function pointer. So I'll just do fuck player, and then I'll make a function to handle this. Then I'll make it private because I'm a good citizen. I'll make a void handle jump input. Like so. So now every time this pawn is being notified by the player controller that the jump has been pressed. So again, it's the player controller that actually receives the input, right? And then it just feeds it to the possessed pawn. So when this possessed pawn gets this sort of jump event, and when it's pressed, it will call this handle jump input function. Very cool.
That's not string interpretation, right? Or is there another way of doing that?
I think this is actually just a pointer.
Okay, but I mean the text jump. Like,
Oh.
is it actually checking for the string and comparing it to? Or I guess maybe if there's no other way of doing it, I guess we'll just have to live with it.
Well, it's an F name. F names are kind of like strings. What an F name is actually, it's an integer. So it has like Unreal has like a huge name and a huge list, I would say a huge map, that maps strings to integers.
Okay, well that's
better.
better.
Yeah, so every time you create an F name, it will look in the list, is this string in here? Then, you know, set it to that integer. Or if it's a new string, then create a new entry and make a new integer. So then what happens is when it's comparing F names with each other, it's just comparing integers. So it's very fast.
Cool.
So that's F names. They are very cool and very, very good. So yeah.
What happens if we want to like get information in our callback? If we want to get past arguments, is that something we have access to, or is everything just a call with void?
I don't know. You might be. I mean, it depends what kind of parameters you want. Yeah, I think. Yeah, here you can actually.
You can just type in the args there.
Here you can actually type in the args if you want to.
Oh, that's nice.
So it will then it will assume that this delegate has parameters with it and send those variables into those parameters. So that's cool. It's pretty neat. Usually when you're binding delegates, you can do that sort of thing where you define additional parameters you want to send to the delegate. Either way, let's create our little handle jump input and let's use the log. So I'll use log temp log. I'm jumping ma. And let's got so much stuff open. Oh no, I'm just gonna fucking clean up here. I get stressed when I have too much stuff open. No, I don't need that anymore. Okay, cool. Let's compile. No, thank you. Bye bye. Don't save. Is it stuck? While it's compiled, I'm gonna get some water actually, because I haven't drunk any water today. Alright, let's see what happens. So if we go into the log and I press spacebar, I'm jumping, ma. Wow. Okay, cool. And how do we jump? Okay, so how do we translate this into the character jumping? Well, it's super fucking easy. You just type jump. Just type jump. It's just a function. It's a function in the character. So it's just the character has a function called jump and it's stop jumping. Fucking whatever. Okay, so we can jump. So that's it. So let's compile.
It's like both weird and really nice, because when we're used to Unity, we have to do like everything manually, but now it's just like, you want to jump? Yeah, just call jump.
Type jump. It's like, you want to swim, you type start swimming or something probably, I don't know. It's so funny with Unreal, some things are so fucking hard, and it's like, oh, I want to bind up the delegate. It's like, a good luck, asshole. And then it's like, oh, I want to jump. And it's like, yeah, fuck, you just type the magic jump function.
Can you take a look at the player H file?
Yeah.
I think I missed something there because I'm getting an error on compile. I'll just take a screenshot of everything.
What's your error?
It says that. Let's see. Oh, here. Wait. I guess I can. Can I screen share somehow?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, the left one, further left one is the screen, I think.
Yes, this looks right. Which screen are you seeing right now? Is it
Unreal.
Unreal? Or... Yeah, nice. So I'm getting this.
Yeah. Okay, so go into cool character. That's line 11.
Where do we have that? Shit. Here we have it. Line 11 in here, so it's this line, I guess.
Yeah, okay. So here's the thing. You're getting default int not allowed. That
Yes.
means it's not recognizing the name of the class.
Alright.
That's what that error means. So in this case, it's not recognizing you input component as a class in the editor. And what do we do then?
Predefine it, or what is it called?
Does anyone know the name?
Forward declare.
Yes.
Forward
We
declare.
forward
Yeah,
declare
right.
it.
You've just got the word virtual hanging out there with nothing after it. I don't know if that's related.
Wait, where?
Where?
It's line 13 now. Virtual setup player input component. You've not set return value to that function.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I haven't done that yet.
That's the default end.
That's a good catch. I didn't even see that.
But you should still probably forward declare,
Yeah, you
right?
should probably forward declare. I should have
It's
done it
a
as
pointer
well.
though, so it doesn't matter. But
Like
you,
that.
I'm always scared when it's like I don't have the forward declare, and it's like, where's this included? Is it included? I don't know. It's like
Okay,
I
so-
get paranoid. But yeah,
No,
so that might
so
be
that
why
could
you
be
got the error.
Yeah, let's hope that.
So let's
it's
see
a
what
pointer though, so it should be fine. But there's no harm in forward declaring.
Yeah, it is. No, yeah, exactly. It's always good to cover your back.
I don't have the forward declare, and it's working fine for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have it either. It's probably because it's forward declared in character. So
Okay.
Well, you're passing it as a pointer type, so it doesn't have to be forward declared at all, does it?
Type specifying
Yes, it does.
int assumed still.
line
Line.
4 in C++.
Oh no, wait, it still does. Yeah, sorry, wrong language.
Shit. So I screwed up something else.
Was it line 4?
Over. Yeah, here. Oh, is it?
Oh,
Is
Sorry, there's
Again,
no
no return
Yeah,
value.
no return value.
that it? Probably.
Yeah, in C++ we fucking have to specify that we don't return anything. Why can't I just fucking like go wild and just do Python, where it's like maybe I'll return, maybe I don't. Who the fuck knows? Like you don't know.
Okay, now it works.
Great,
Thank you.
fantastic,
Nice.
cool. All right, so I know y'all are fucking suspended on the edge of your seats. Will this work? Will we jump? Will we make it? Are we coders or are we just like weaklings? Let's try.
I think you have to screen share again. I can't see anything.
Ah, shit.
Just-
Oh, yeah.
Okay, do you see now?
Yes.
Yes.
And wow! Hooray!
Hey!
Amazing.
How do you change jump force? I'm assuming that's just a variable.
That's just a variable. I don't know. Can you do that? I mean, yeah, you could have done code, but I've never done any code before. Let's see. Let's just the screen, the spreadsheet in code form is probably like a jump force or something. Jump force time remaining, proxy jump force started time, jump max hold time. Oh, jump max count. Let's fucking do double jump, boys. Fucking
Scout in TF2.
fucking player.
Is this jump function already built into the A character?
Yes, it's an A character function. So I'm gonna make a constructor just so I can override some variables in the movement component. Again, we always do that in the constructor. So I will go make a constructor and I will set move comp. What is it called? Movements component. Move. Is this movement? No. Let's see. What is movement component called? Get movement components. Okay. Okay. So I'll just do get movement component. Whoops. I'll just out of this. Whoops. Let's see, what can we change in here? Jump. Jump. Can ever jump. Oh, I think the pawn, I think this returns the base class, doesn't it? I think it does. I've actually never done this in code, so let's learn together. How the fuck do you do this? Movement component. Where's set actually movement component? U character movement component. Okay, where's that used? U character movement component. Oh, there it is. It's a private. Okay, so it's a private called character movement, and when is that returned? Ah, there. Okay, get character movement. Great. There's two functions returning the same components. How nice. So we got to get character movement. This is usually how I do things. I mean, I think it's good for you guys to see me do this because I don't really trust, you know, Stack Overflow and that sort of thing. I don't know, maybe that's just a cynical thing of me to do, but I like to actually go into the code and have a peek. Since we have the source code, I'm thinking like, why not just go in there and search which functions are here? Like there's probably is one called like get character movement or something, and then you will also learn a little bit more about the Unreal source code, which is always good. So I recommend to always just dive in and see what you can find, and if you don't find anything, then you can go on internet and start googling. I think it's a good practice to check the code first. And now we should have jump counts. What was it called? Like num jumps? What was it called? Jump.
I thought it was called jump count, but
The fuck was it called? It was like, well, here's jump set velocity, so we can set that if we want. So I'll just say I want 5,000. I want to jump really fucking high.
Oh yeah, that's another thing, Unity people. Z is up.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, set is up.
Yikes.
Welcome to the real world.
You mean the Unreal world?
Oh no.
Oh god.
God, wasn't even. Oh,
I'm sorry.
I'm angry. Oh, there, jump max count. There it is. So move comp. Oops. Jump max. Oh no, that's not on the component. Oh, I hate you, Unreal. You're so dumb. It's not the component. It's on the characters. You have to on the character. We set how many jump max count. There it is.
Oh my god. So wait, you set the jump force on a different component to where you set the number of
Yes, that makes
counts?
so much sense. Don't question it. It makes so much sense.
Oh my god.
Oh dear. Okay, so let's compile. I feel like I'm really like selling the Unreal Engine right now. I've never been an advocate for the default. It failed. Use of undefined type U character movement component. Okay, so it was forward declared, so we have to include that. So let's see, character movement component of H. It is in classes, game framework. Classes, game framework, character movement component. So we have to include game framework / character movement components. Okay. Oops. Like so. Great. So now we should be able to jump really high. Oh my god.
You didn't use delta type, right?
I mean, you're not supposed to. You're setting an impulse. Oh, there, oh my god. How is this 5,000 force? That's way too... 5,000 is not that much. It takes like an hour for us to come down again. Okay, let's not do 5,000.
What did you set the force to?
Yeah?
What did you set the force to?
5,000.
Oh.
Let's maybe do 500 maybe.
I mean, 5,000 is still 50 meters per second.
Oh, is that the
That's
unit
true.
Oh,
Yeah, since 1 unit is 1 centimeter,
That's a
like
good
50 meters per
point.
second, that's pretty freaking fast.
500.
This is more reasonable.
This is a pretty good height. And then if I press jump again, then I can double jump. But I can only do it once. Cool. So now we have double jump. Great, that was easy. So that's coding. Set an integer. That's how it works. Alright. So anyways, we have jump, so that's cool. But we want to be able to walk around as well, right? It's a little bit of a boring game to only be able to jump. So let's bind axes as well. And actually, I also should check if I can jump with A. So I bound A button to be also jump. So let's see if that works. Okay, cool, it works. So I can jump and I can double jump with the gamepad as well. But now we want to be able to move. So then we're going to define an axis. We could define, like, you know, right, left, up, down as action mappings and then have them to the WASD keys. But if we want to be able to use the gamepad, then, you know, we want to be able to like move a little bit with the gamepad. So if I hold a little bit forward, then I want it to walk kind of slowly. But if I hold max forward, it should walk a little bit faster. So it makes sense that it should be an axis. It shouldn't be used one or zero binary. It should be a range of inputs. So I'm gonna make an action mapping. So let's say I'm gonna make an axis. So axis is always floating points. It's always a range in float value. It can't be like a vector input. It's always floats. So we're gonna have to make one for moving forwards and backwards. That's gonna be one float, and then we'll make one axis input for moving right and left. So that's gonna be one input. So I will do move forwards. At least call it move forward actually. And I'll set that to be the axis here. So I'll press this button and there we go. Left thumbstick y-axis. So I'll set that to be the axis to move forward. And let's see if that works. So the way we bind an axis in code is that we do player input component. And then we do bind axis. And then the first one only takes an axis name, which I don't know what this does. I have no idea what only passing in the name will do. But then if I check the second definition with the axis name and then uObject, not uObject, sorry, the object pointer and the delegate pointer. So same thing with the text, move forward. We don't need an IE press now because since actions have, you know, a rising edge, a falling edge, they can only be on or off. Axes don't change state, they only change the value. So we don't need to specify one state, we specify whenever this axis changes, give me the actual value of the axis. So we'll just do this, and then do fuck player, and then handle move forward. Oops. Like that, and I'll create this function, handle move forward. And it takes a float as a parameter, so that's going to be the value of the axis. So whenever the axis changes, this function will be called, and it will pass in the value of the axis, so what the new value of the axis is. So I will define that, or create the implementation. And then let's log it. So UE log temp, log. So I'll do move forward is F value. So F is a replacement specifier, so we'll replace this with a floating point, and then afterwards I just type in the floating point value. It's standard printf stuff.
What are all the like percentage things, like %d? I know. Is there like a list?
Yeah, you can just type printf and then take the first one, and you should get like a nice list. Yeah, here it is. Here's all the specifiers. Nice. Here's a bunch of flags. Here's a bunch of width specifiers, precision. So, and here's all the different types. If you want to do chars versus shorts versus integers versus longs and so on. So yeah, it's very easy to find.
Cool.
I definitely do not know them by heart. I looked them up every time I want to do something. All right, so let's see what happens. So if I play, and nothing happens until I move the thumbstick here. then again nothing happens because I didn't compile. Cool. So now, okay, so now it's actually spamming 0. So now if I move it up and down, you can see it goes from 1, and then if I type it go all the way down, it will give me -1. And then if I hold it in the middle, it gives me 0. So it goes from 1 to -1 based on the y-axis of the thumbstick input there. So that's great, but what if I want to use the keyboard, right? So now I've mapped it to the thumbstick, which is an obvious axis. But what if I want to map it to the keyboard? The way you do that in Unreal is that you add an axis. We add an input here for the axis mapping. So we add move forward. I press the plus key here to add another key, and then I'll type like a W. So I want W to be forwards, and then I'll type S to be backwards. So I'll actually give 2 keys here. And then what we do is with the scale, we define what is the value of the axis when we type this key. So when we press W, I want the value of the axis to be 1. But when I type S, I want the value of the axis to be -1. So I'm essentially mapping W and S to be the apex points of the left thumbstick of the gamepad. So instead of now discretely going from -1 to 1, picking any value, it will be 0 by default, it will be 1 if I hit W, it will be -1 if I hit S, and also what's nice, if I hit W and S at the same time, they will just cancel out and I will get 0. So now if I play, I should be able to type W to get 1, down here in the log there, I type S to get -1, and if I hold both, I get 0. So we've mapped an axis value to the keys, the keystroke, so that's very cool.
How does it work if you have like multiple keys? Like if you with the gamepad press up and also W at the same time? I'm assuming that's...
Actually. Let's try. So if I go up and then press W, I get 2. That's so dumb. Okay, so it just adds them together. So that's not good.
Jesus Christ.
All right, so they're just adding together. So that's okay. So that's cool. That's a good exploit.
But is it always called like continuously? Because I see it's spamming 0. Like,
yeah, I guess it is called every frame. I thought it was gonna be when it changes, but I guess yeah, it is calling every frame. So that's cool. Guess that's useful sometimes. Neat. So let's just map this to actually moving forwards and backwards, and then we'll take a little break. So the way we add movement inputs to a character, like this is again character specific, it's not like Unreal specific. The way we map in a character, there's a very nice function called add movement input. So add movement input takes a vector. So what this means is that it will try to move the pawn with this input direction. So if we just pass in a vector here, so I will make an F vector, which is a vector 3. I think we used F vector before and didn't properly explain what it was, but an F vector is a vector 3 in Unity. So by default, F vectors are vector 3. And then there's vector 2D, which is a vector 2. So I'll make a vector 3, and I will specify the X component. So that's going to be forward. So forward in Unreal is usually X. So I'll specify X to be value, and I'll set the other ones to 0. So now we're going to be adding movement input in the X direction. It's based on the value of our axis. Let's see if I compile this. If I hit W, hooray, we're moving forwards and we're moving backwards. You can see that the character is adding, like, you know, acceleration and a little bit of drag and stuff for us. So we don't have to do that. We just have to type W and it just works. Very cool. Very cool. All right, let's take a little break. So I'll see you guys back at 14. So grab some water, stretch your legs a little bit. I'll see you guys soon.